Tia Pani Bato, we are Tomoni, oh, yeah, do Monsieur Weah. I'm on my Yoko, so we are son, then Bemo. Tia Pani Bato, we are Tomoni, oh, yeah, do Monsieur Weah. Tia, say by your c'est pas un jour c'est pas un jour c'est pas un jour so si yo lele oh ya si yo lele oh ya si yo lele amon manyo ko so wi ya son dan bemu Tia Pani Bato, we are Tomoni, oh, Abignon, no Monsieur Weah. Kia se payan dijo, mama. Kia se payan dijo, son cœur. Wokian, ya kia. Kia se payan dijo. Kia ya uri money. Mon retale se ma bembe son fille. Kia ya uri manyo e abatoni. Passion même oh yeah we money more retole se ma même pio abinyo be
Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Tough Talking Thursday. Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and of course we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to the full house of Tough Talking Thursday, and what we're going to be discussing tonight: what will it take to unseat President George Weah comes 2023 elections? Conversely, what will it take for President Weah to win his second term? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight, and I'm delighted to welcome Mr. Mohammed Sharif. That's our friend from Kilipo Kanwekan from the Uplift Institute. Comrade Sharif, we call him. He is FOL political analyst. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dennis. Thank you.
I also want to welcome former TLC commissioner and journalist Massa Emilio Washington. Massa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. A pleasure always.
Let's welcome Mr. Choppy Charlie, aka Blowjay Nation. He is a born-again sedition. Mr. Choppy Charlie, welcome to the show.
Yeah, boy, again. Thank you so much, man, for having me.
Yeah. Mr. Charlie is one of those who help with the crafting of the CDC ideology. Let's welcome FOL governance consultant, soon to be Dr. Ahmed Salif. Dr. Salif, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Dennis. It's always a pleasure. Let's do it. I'm looking forward to it.
Last and definitely not the least, the fans were calling for her last. We want to welcome Call Weah. Call, welcome.
Yeah. We got it right.
Welcome, Call. Call is our policy analyst and also the presenter of FOL, that's the Liberia History.
Oh, I forgot to remove the presenter part from my name. Yeah, sorry. I'm not presenting today.
Welcome, Call.
Thank you so much.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. There have been many theories and many suggestions, many views as to what it will take for President Weah to lose or for President Weah to be unseated come 2023. There are also many people are postulating as to what will make President Weah a one-term president. So tonight, we're going to be discussing that. So before we talk about someone losing or winning, we want to also look at, what voters are voting on. What is it that is making the voters to respond the way they do? We have some historical data that can take us through that. So let's begin. And the first part, we're going to deal with what it's going to take to unseat President Weah. And viewers, we want you to take off your partisan hat and tell us, even though you are, say you are a sedition, but you can still tell us what it's going to take. Although you believe that your president, your guy is going to win, but let's disarm ourselves of all our political biases and be able to tell us what it's going to take for President Weah to lose, and at the same time, on the other end, what it's going to take for President Weah to win. So there will come a time we're going to involve our audience to weigh in on the issue and give their views. So let me start with our governance consultant as to Mr. Salif. What is it going to take for President Weah to be unseated come 2023?
Oh, thank you, Dennis. I'm happy to be here again. This is an easy, difficult topic tonight. So the country is already experiencing a whole host of difficult issues. Under this administration, the challenges are very glaring, bread and butter issues, from bread and butter to major national capital intensive matters that are important to Liberia. And the question for President Weah and his team to answer, or at least for the voters to answer, again, is that question that, every political observer, every sensible person asks the people. On January 2018, when President Weah took office, from that time to the election, is your life better today than it was then? Is the country better today than it was then? Is the country more secure in terms of security? Is the country's infrastructure better today than it was? How are the people doing? And so those are the questions. How's the economy doing under President Weah? How's rule of law under President Weah? How's national security under President Weah? Is Liberia more fragile today than it was then? Are people hungrier today than they were when President Weah took office? So if the answers to those questions are all negative answers and are not favorable to the president, it will be very difficult. However, in an African political context, look, we can't just go by the books. We have to be realistic. There are all kinds of factors that make an incumbent to lose an election. Those factors are way less than the prospect of an incumbent winning an election. If it is not a transparent environment, incumbents can do all kinds of things to keep themselves in power. So we're hoping that this election will be free, fair, and transparent. However, again, there are possibilities that, state resources are at the disposal of this administration of President Weah. The incumbency is in favor of President Weah. So there are those things, those advantages that I think the president has in an African context, unfortunately, sadly, right? I mean, that is just a reality we've seen in many other countries on the continent where African incumbents misuse and abuse power. They use state resources to keep themselves in power. If the president goes that route, then he has the advantage. Otherwise, if it's just a matter of electoral questions, I see a very difficult path.
Thank you. Let me ask Ms. Washington. Ms. Washington, from all that you know, what will it take to unseat President Weah 2023?
Okay. First, let me start by saying that let me first establish, and I may be wrong, that George Weah is a popular person. He's probably one of the most popular Liberians of our times. Let's say that, and I say it with no bias intended. And the reason I say that is that George Weah's popularity, I have not seen his popularity wane significantly since he made his entry on the world stage when he launched his soccer career in the mid-'80s. I think it was 1985 or 1986, when he finally went international playing soccer. And Weah played soccer at the time. He was at the echelon of his game at the time when Liberians were fighting, and there was nothing good coming out of Liberia. And so he seemed to have been like the only light at the time. Watching the George Weah play soccer in video clubs in the slum areas of Liberia was very popular, and people started loving him. he became endeared to the population. And also in 2005, when Weah contested the elections with Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who was a heavyweight politician, UN former personnel, and what have you, there were 22 political parties that contested at the elections. And Weah came, actually in the first round, he came first place with, I think, 28% of the vote. And Ellen came 19% of the vote. And when they went to the runoff, Ellen won Weah by 40%. Weah had 40% of the vote, and I think Ellen has 61%, 59% of the vote. But when you look at this, Weah got more votes in the second round than he did in the first round. I'm just trying to establish his popularity and why I think, you know, it still works in his favor. So in that 2005 elections, the runoff, Weah actually got, I think, maybe 12% more votes than he did in the second round than he did in the first round. Then come to the 2014 senatorial elections. He ran against Rob Sirleaf, who was or who is the beloved son of President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And Weah got, I think, 78% of the votes in Montserrado County against Rob Sirleaf, measly 11% of the vote. Again, you see the popularity with Weah. It didn't win. It kept growing. And when he ran against Ellen, in 2017, when he ran against the incumbent Vice President Joseph Boycott, I think it was 20 presidential candidates. Again, Weah was the one who came in the runoff for Boycott. And when they had a runoff, Weah won 61 point something% of the vote, compared to Boycott 38.4% of the vote. So you see, every time Weah ran in an election, whether he ran in the second round of election or not, his votes kept increasing. He kept getting more people who were voting for him. So at this time,
Right.
the way I see the Liberian people, and I'm talking about basically the voters, the people at home who are going to
Right.
vote, because don't forget, we in the diaspora, we are not voting. We are not voting. So people do not necessarily, I don't see people as voting on issues. And I don't want to be disrespectful to our Liberian voters, but I think most of our voters are adult voters. They don't vote on issues. The voters tend to vote a lot on personality. So I think Weah has this personality. He has this favorite Uncle type of personality. He played for, he jovial, you know, when things are really tough.
So, Master, if I may interject, because we are 3 minutes gone now. You were saying basically there's nothing that's going to make Weah to lose the election. Is that basically what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is
what will it take for Weah to lose?
What I'm saying is his popularity. His popularity is definitely a plus for him, and that is something that would be in the face of the opposition. So, I mean, for Weah to lose the election, probably if the entire opposition come together, including all of the smaller parties, you know, maybe they might pull it off. But even with that, I think it will still be an uphill battle for them, because Weah is solid in terms of that population or that group that supports him. I'm not saying that he can lose the election, but what I'm saying is, you know, it would be a toss-up. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, even though it's a toss-up, what is that little thing that's going to make him to lose? Do you know of any?
Well, maybe if all the opposition come together, that is not only the Liberty Party and ANC, but if you have the Unity Party, the ANC, the Liberty Party, and all the other smaller parties coming together, maybe they might be able to pull off the numbers, the kind of numbers that they have. But when you visit Liberia and you talk to people on the ground, you know, you get a different feeling.
We'll come to that.
Yeah, you get a different feeling.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Choppy Charlie. He's a sedition. Mr. Choppy Charlie, you want your guy to win. Definitely, you're going to tell me he's going to win. I'm only asking, say, what will it take for him to lose?
Well, you know, thanks again for having me on the program. It seems like I'm going to be doing a lot of re-education here, because some of the things I'm hearing, I think is a problem that we're having with the Liberian opposition. being disconnected from the Irish voter in the country, because the understanding of the Liberian electorate and their or political programs does not fit with reality. Weah has an easy re-elections to win. The opposition, if you look at the scoreboard right now, the opposition is already losing three. They're already in -3. And to recover from that -3 is going to be a very difficult thing for them. I don't see them recovering. I only see them participating in the process because it is obvious that you have to have a contest. But let me just quickly respond to two issues that I listened to. One, the gentleman earlier spoke about the politics in the African context. And he talks about political advantage in the African context. Every elections, whether in the Western world or Africa, there's political advantage any Cuban has. It's not unique to Africa. So every time I hear these things that in African elections, the Cuban can do this and that, it doesn't square. In any political environment, once who has a bullet pulpit, like the presidency, always has an advantage. It's how that president uses that advantage properly that will keep him re-elected. The second issue I heard from our sister or Madam Washington, when she talks about that Liberians don't vote on issues, they only vote on personality. I disagree with that view very strongly. People think that Liberians don't vote on issues. They do vote on issues, but there's also a personality in every elections. Even in America, there's something they call likability factor. When people are running for president, the American presidency, there's a word called the likability factor. Some people just like the person who is running for president, and that gave them an extra advantage. So yes, George, we have the personality, the likability factor is there, but the people are voting on the issue. There's a strong issue that people vote for in Liberia. You may not see it, you may not understand it, but I can tell you, as someone who has gone across the country of Liberia, like 3 different elections, organizing the CDC and doing a lot of stuff. Those people in rural Liberia have a complete faith in them. They are not voting based on personality. They are voting for specific issues. And those issues favor George Weah, and George Weah are going to win these elections very easily.
Right. So what may go wrong that may make Weah to lose?
Well, I would say honestly, and I think Mr. Weah himself will not disagree with this, and since CC have been working towards this. Weah has to maintain his base. He has to keep the base energized. Those who have been supportive of the CDC has to continue to remain on board. And that's the only problem George Weah has. He has a George Weah, I'll call it a George Weah problem, not because he has a problem, but it is just a CDC problem. So once Weah maintains his base, there's no way he can lose these elections.
Thank you. Let me bring up Mrs. Cole family to tell us what will it take for Weah to lose.
It's going to take a lot. I mean, we're in a situation politically in Liberia where we're suffering from like a political Stockholm syndrome, coupled with the fact that you have some very narcissistic personalities running for office, people who are not running on issues. And they're not, I completely disagree that this election is about issues. It is about extreme narcissism. I am better than everyone else. Every candidate is there talking about their personal attributes as opposed to their beliefs, their political ideology, their vision for the country. It's a complete contest of narcissistic characters. And that is in an environment where people are already suffering from a sense of helplessness. And whenever you're in a situation where you feel helpless or powerless, you tend to rely your gut instincts, your ethnic instincts, your primal instincts will kick in, and you will bond and galvanize yourself or connect yourself with what is comfortable and familiar to you. And so what is happening right now is that while George has failed to meet the needs of the country, they are bonded to him because of the familiarity. And I think the average person sees George as a comfort zone. They know what to expect with George. the fear of these narcissists that come out and put them down. I'm better than you. You're all corrupt. You're all criminals. I'm the only person that's not corrupt. I'm the only person that's correct. That doesn't, people don't receive that kind of condescendence well. The purpose of politics is to inspire people. It's to inspire people in evoking them a sense of hope. That is where the opposition has failed. They have not evoked a sense of hope. They have not painted that big future picture for the public, for the nation to hold on to and work towards. Instead, there's this narcissism that is all about me, I. You do not inspire people to do better, to move things forward with that kind of narcissism. There's no one living today, born in Liberia, that can beat George Weah in a contest of narcissism. You will never win. I don't care what you've achieved in your life. You will never beat George Weah in a contest of narcissism. This man was a sports superhero. The majority of the population in Liberia, the average person is younger than I am, right? We have a very young population. All of us who were born, in my era and after, know of Weah to be a hero. So if it's a narcissistic personality competition, George wins hands down.
Right.
So the responsibility of those who want to contest against George is to lift the discourse, elevate the discussion beyond me. I did this, I accomplished this too. This is what we are going to do as a country. This is our vision. This is the big future picture I painted, and sell that future picture. Let people buy into it. Let people be inspired. Unless that happens, George is going to whip everyone in this election. Unless that, I don't care how poorly he's performing, because the alternative that's being offered is not enough. The way the opposition is presenting their case, it's not enough. And so my hope is that somebody's going to wake up, and say, hey, wait a minute. This is not about me. It's about the citizens. It's about the country.
All right. Thank you. So what I hear you saying is, in order to unseat Judge Weah, opposition figures shouldn't be narcissists. I don't know where you're going with that narcissism. How are these people? How is it a competition of narcissists? Oh, that word is giving me a hard time. In fact,
I mean, as a public policy person, political scientist, you're talking about, politics. You should be talking about belief systems. You should be talking about your vision, your plans. What is your ideology? What is the purpose of your entering into politics? It's some end. The end shouldn't just be me as president. The end should be, I believe in a united Liberia. I believe in advancing the cause of the African race. I believe in, being an Uncle Tom and pandering to the West. You've got to believe in something. Whatever it is, you should believe in something. Or, you believe in self-determination for the Liberian people and the Liberianization of all government, not all government, but all private assets should be, corporations should be, discounted for Liberia. You should have a belief system. You're not hearing any of this coming from either the ruling party or the opposition. Everything is about their personalities, what they've accomplished, why they're better than everyone else personally, not why their ideas are better, not why their plans are better, but why they personally are better. And then the supporters have formed a cult around these narcissists. It's no longer about their thought pattern. It's about, we worship this, our narcissist is better than yours. And I'm telling you, Dennis, I'm telling you, Masa and gentlemen, George Weah cannot be defeated in a contest of narcissism by anyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sharif, before you answer the question, is that what our voters respond to? Is it, do our voters respond to personalities or they respond to issues? Because what Cole is saying is, unless you talk about what you believe in, what the issues are, they're not going to vote for you. What's your take? And then you can go and tell me what it's going to take to unseat President Weah?
So thank you very much, Dennis. So my job now is a lot easier. It's your job is always easier when you have smart people go ahead of you. The previous speakers, and particularly call uh, Mrs. Washington and Ahmed, they said it correctly, especially call and Massa and Massa, they said it correctly. I mean, this is George. This is a tall order, right? And to answer your question directly before I dive into other things, Liberians now are responding to celebrities, to people who they believe. You heard Massa say on one of our shows that someone said they voted for Charles Taylor because the Pape can dress, the man can dress, man, the man is handsome. So in the light of everything that went down, in the light of brutality, in the light of all of what was going on in the Liberian nation state at this time, you have voters who said, the man is a good dresser, the man can dress. And then you have other voters who said he's going to bring the United States dollar. So you had all of these issues going on. You have all of these frivolous issues. They weren't real issues. Talk about ideology. They weren't really ideological driven. So you had these frivolous issues on the basis of which people elected Mr. Charles Taylor. You have frivolous issues. So you have George Weah, someone who did not face electorate, someone who did not communicate his vision to the Liberian people, someone who shunned debates and stuff like that. And he was able to win the election. In 2005, he was able to win the first round. Clearly, he won the first round. He was very, very, very competitive in the second round. Some will argue that he continued to say he continues to carry this grudge that he even won the second round. He believed that. George Weah has been relevant for over a decade. For the better part of 15 years now, George Weah has been relevant since he was a star after his playing career. He jumped into politics and he was catapulted right off the bat, and he hasn't looked back ever since. So it is a tall order to dislodge George Weah. I mean, this is someone who doesn't take his job seriously. This is someone who is very very corrupt. This is someone who has stolen a lot of money. This is someone who has done a lot of dangerous things in Liberia, who has let loose all of his minions to steal the Liberian people's resources. And yet he is very, very popular with the Liberian people. What you saw the other day is just a microcosm, Dennis, of what happened in Liberia. You have people walking in the rain, individuals who, you won't think that they'll go out there, but they were out there in the rain, in a protest, not a protest, but a rally in support of George Weah. You saw that. You saw that people who traveled to New York, people from here in Pennsylvania, and others from from Michigan who travel all the way to New York to see their leader. And what I'm telling you now, the opposition needs to listen to what Cole just said. I mean, the narcissism, they believe that I have to be the leader. They believe that I am the only one. You interview Dr. Cassell on this show yesterday, and Dr. Cassell said, when Cummings talked to me, the arrangement was I will have to be the standard bearer. I mean, what world are we living in now? So everyone and their brother, everybody wants to be the standard bearer. No one is stepping down. No political leader is saying, you know what, I would join you, and then I want to go serve in the Senate. I want to go serve in the House of Representatives. Nobody is saying that. Everyone wants to be the standard bearer. So have this fracture now in the opposition that's not going to defeat the CDC this way. So if they continue this, they're not going to defeat the CDC. To go to your other question, what would it take to defeat George Weah? It would take a whole lot. It would take an amalgamation of all of these political forces, especially the relevant political parties, the top tier political parties. And I'm talking about the Unity Party. I'm talking about the ANC and all the other political parties, the Liberty Party. and all the top tier political parties, it would take an effort for them to come together, their kind of effort. And it will also take them the effort to communicate their vision to the Liberian people. We haven't seen them do that for a very, very long time now. So they need to come out and tell the Liberian people why they are the better alternative. They need to demonstrate that now, because now is the time. 2023, January of 2023, will be too late for them to do, maybe too late, I will argue, for them to do anything, but they need to come together. And coming together is the first step in defeating George Weah. Don't get this wrong. George Weah is immensely popular with the Liberian people. George Weah does not have to say anything. He usually shies away from, how many times have he had a press conference? And George Weah had a press conference. How many times has he communicated on radio and television? How many times has he written an op-ed? How many times has George Weah done anything like that? Nothing. But never mind, you have the Liberian voters who do not care about that. Chofi Charles just told you, and he knows that for a fact. When you go to places, in rural Liberia, they don't care about the thing that we are talking about. They don't care about ideology. They don't care if he doesn't communicate his vision to the Liberian people. They don't care if he's stealing all of our resources and giving half of our resources to his wife and all of the other people. They don't care about that. They're still going to carry him.
Thank you. I'm hearing two things here, and this sentiment has been around that in order for Weah to be unseated, it will take political parties or opposition political parties coming together. I don't know where is the data to back that. So if you say on one hand that Weah is so popular, he did not communicate a vision, and he's doing so poorly as a president, yes, it's going to take people to come together before they defeat him. It's going to take messaging. It's going to take all the above things that you all have listed to defeat him. Then I'm saying a disconnect here, because if he's not communicating, if he's not doing anything, why should it take so much to defeat him? Let me go with Master first.
Is that my question?
Okay, Dennis.
Yeah.
Okay, this is exactly the point I'm making. From the moment that Weah was launched internationally in the 1986, that is his soccer career, so now it's been 36 years, and George Weah is still popular. I haven't seen any other person who has been that popular or relevant politically or in the public sphere for that length of time. It's been 36 years since George Weah was introduced, and here we are, we're still discussing how difficult, it's going to be to just, unseat him in the next election. But let's just say this. This is what I think is happening, and I stand to be corrected, of course. So again, that's how I feel. That's my opinion. I don't think the Liberian people actually vote basically on the basis of issues. I think they vote on personality. I think a lot of the voters are adult voters.
Right. So stop there. So if that's the case, how does the coming together of all political parties going to make the difference?
Listen, let me tell you first why I think the Liberian people we are continue to be popular. So don't forget his background. He's like the ordinary man, even though he has all this money now, he's president. And then also Weah has that personality, like Chappie Charlie said. Weah has that the likable personality. He's like a favorite uncle type personality. Weah is accessible to the ordinary person, at least from what we see. And then Weah is a jovial type of person. Weah is light in his presidency. He's having an easy presidency because he's not sweating the tough stuff. Weah doesn't call any press conference when they find bodies in and around Monrovia. He doesn't call any press conference with for those kind of major things. He lets it play out. Like the Liberian people are not holding him responsible, for whatever. They will tell you, well, Weah didn't kill anybody. Weah didn't send people to kill anybody. They don't argue and say, well, he's the president and these things are happening under his presidency, so he should do something. They don't see it as him being responsible for the security per se. They don't see it that way. So I do agree with Chappie Charlie that there's a disconnect with some of the people, especially the opposition, and some of us in the diaspora. There's a disconnect with us and the people on the ground. The people on the ground, they completely see something different. They completely, and sometimes I think they want something different from us, because after a while you ask yourself, who are the ordinary people, or who are the masses that you're fighting for, that we're making all this noise about? Because definitely apparently they're not hearing us, or they're not listening to us, or maybe we're missing the point, because
Yeah.
we is popular. And you say, why would they take all the opposition to unseat him?
No, I'm saying with all this, will all the opposition coming together making a difference based on what you've said?
Well, again, like I said, maybe it will, maybe not.
Okay.
But from what I see, I mean, Liberians. I'm saying this based upon what I see Liberians on the ground do, what I hear them say. Um,
Yeah.
People will come out to demonstrate because someone wrote a book and mentioned the first lady frivolously. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I completely disagree. People should respect women, but the people will come out and vote because someone, quote unquote, took Claire Weah's name in vain, because you know what? She's Weah's wife. She's the president's wife. But nobody who is demonstrating will say, well, why are these men even having discussion about women generally? Why are people even discussing Liberian women in this manner? That was not the issue. The issue was, this is George Weah wife, and we
Yeah.
love George Weah. He's popular. He's our president. So nobody should be disrespecting the president because it's Weah's wife. So I'm telling you, this thing with the personality, George Weah has a personality that is like a magnet for the ordinary Liberian people. And whether we like it or not, that's what it is. He's extremely popular. 26 years, this man is still popular with the ordinary people.
Thank
It's
you, Mr. Salif.
he has.
Thank you,
Well,
Mr. Salif.
it seems like if all of us here on the panel were the voters, then we would have won the election already. It's like your opinion pool right here. You voted for President Weah. Look, we've seen African populists and who came on populism become unpopular. That's the point I'm making. Yes, look, I've always told people Mr. Weah is very consequential. He's very popular. He has remained relevant for a long time. He has been very successful in his career. He has done things that a lot of prominent Liberians you can think of haven't done, and so you have to give him that. However, unfortunately, Liberia's not doing well. You say that the friends are not happy that you're saying that, but it's Liberia we're talking about. The country is not doing well under President Weah. And you may say they're not issues voters. I think when we talk like that, sometimes we tend to just generalize in a way, because yes, look, President Weah is very popular, but the ordinary Liberians we're talking about, there are also various blocks of citizens who are voters, right? Why do opposition candidates have following? So everybody has following. The CDC is a popular party and is in a coalition with the NPP. You can think of that. So there are different factors that it's really creating this magnet in addition to the president's own personality and his history. But what I'm saying is, I think this time around we're hearing different things. We're hearing people are really disappointed. People who voted for President Weah in the 2017 election, even seditions. We've seen snippets here and there. There may be some discords in the party. There may be some discords among the ranks, and not just among the hierarchy, sort of the executives. We're seeing leaked tips where the current party chair, they patch it up. They're very, very good at least keeping that cohesiveness of their party. I give that to them. But clearly, we heard more on tips saying not so flattering things about the president, prophecies and things like that. So that is something that goes across with a lot of seditions, that even within their party, they have these grievances. Within the country, obviously, there are economic grievances. That's what I was saying. The argument is, look, the president is doing well on roads and things like that. But the outlook of the country, the international image of the country, look, we're struggling to even have our president meet with other heads of state. I mean, so I'm saying there are issues, right? I mean, I don't think that you should just pat the president on the back and say, go take a rest in 2023 is rest assured you're going to win re-election.
So how does the collective opposition take advantage of what you're saying to unseat the president? You're talking about your harsh economic realities and all the 9 here. So will it take an opposition to beat on those issues to unseat President Weah, is what I'm hearing?
It's a blend of all kinds of things, Dennis. So and the president is lucky that the opposition, maybe it's not even lucky, it's intentional strategy that they've sown discord within the opposition ranks, and then the opposition is not able to overcome that. Look, this is all political, politics and dirty politics that you can play. I talk about African context. My brother was taking me. This is the reality. I mean, we can name countless countries and leaders who have behaved this way. There's evidence. I'm not just here making up stories, right? I mean, you can say all you want, the party line, but this is the African reality. Yes, likability, electability, those are variables that you look at every politics in every country, in every context. I was in that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about some of the not so savvy things that our politicians do on the continent to maintain power, and that is a real that's a real thing where people use the incumbency, right, to stay in power. The opposition, they're not together. That's just the fact, and they're weak, and so that is a plus for President Weah. But there are things that they can do. They can give the people hope. They can show the alternative. That listen, it's not about me. It's about the country. It's about the direction of the country. Here's our vision for the country. Here's how we intend to take this country in a different direction. And I can show you. I'm not just telling you. There are a number of things that could be happening. Some of them are not happening, but there's possibility that a popular president can become unpopular. We've seen, in fact, very popular African president who became unpopular and they weren't re-elected. So that's I'm not taking anything away from President Weah and how he's been consequential for all these decades, but I'm just telling you that we have tough times in the country on all kinds of variables.
Thank you. Choppy. So the president is popular and he has all those things that you've listed, yet when he had his hand behind in the Darius Dillon, when the opposition, now disintegrated CPP or reformed CPP, they beat President Weah in Monserrato. The elections in Lofa, where President Weah was behind a candidate, that candidate was defeated. So it is not, it is not out of the ordinary. President Weah have suffered losses before, and don't you think if the opposition comes together like what happened in the Monserrato County election that Dillon won, President Weah will become a one-term president?
Well, I already said the opposition is -3. So
where are you getting that number from?
How do they recover from -3? It's going to be a miracle. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, where is that number coming from?
I mean, just from the political dynamics and what they have been doing. There are some things that they have done that we can calculate to be 3 negative.
You can do that to us, man. You can just give us numbers.
Yeah, I will address that, but let me just respond to a whole host of issues.
Is he responding to everything we say, or are you giving your own analysis? I mean,
of course, I have. That's my analysis.
Opportunity to come back. You said something that I didn't say and attribute it to me. I didn't have the opportunity to correct you. So if you keep reacting, Dennis, then if you attribute something like that to me, you have to give an opportunity to correct him.
Sure, you will give you have an opportunity to respond.
Well, I've listened to a lot of stuff. I think I have I should have it. I mean, in my response, I can choose to address these things because these are things that are flying around that I don't find to be correct.
Go ahead, Papi.
You know, and I think this is a problem the opposition is having. And so I begin with Kowe, and she stated that partially correct. I definitely agree with her when she talked about narcissism about the political actors in the country. But I think that narcissism on the one side is on the opposition side. And that narcissism is a class of personality amongst the opposition that have caused them to lose their focus. And I say that to say, you know, again, we have to understand. Let's see whether George Weah fit in the narcissism. Let's look at George Weah political history. There's the man who came to politics. He did not make himself available. He was recruited by the people. So that one thing you have to understand, he did not come to the people himself and say, I want to be a president because I can play good football. I'm the best in the world. No, the people recruited him. They recruited him and for a specific purpose. So that's one. So he did not make himself available. Secondly, we saw George Weah leaving the presidency stage after running for president. He was able to come back when the people say at some point, look, Mr. Weah, we've tested you as a presidential candidate. We think you need to come back as a vice presidential candidate. He listened to the people and he came down. Afterward, the people said you gotta become a senator. He came further down. So that's not a narcissistic man. That's not a man who is so stuck in his own personality. He has been listening to the people. And that's a genius quality of any leader who listens to his people and follow his people. And because of that, the people believe in him because the people feel that they can communicate with this leader and he can represent their interests. Have we seen that on the other side? No. We see on the other side where people only want to be president and nothing else. If it causes them to break down their own collaboration and destroy it, they're going to do that. They don't have the interest of the nation at heart. That's not the case with George Weah. So that's just one example. And I can give you many other examples where George Weah have submitted his own personal will to the general will of the people. So that's a genius quality. Democracy calls for that. So if we look at George Weah, the narcissism does not fit him. Then we come to
hold on, Carl.
Yeah, people can have their own viewpoints. I mean, that's a reality. And again, that's what I say. This analysis misunderstands by people, and so you will always have this rejection of those who claim to know a lot because they fail to understand this basic reality. Now, I'm hearing about international image. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was president. She had Nobel Peace Prize and all these things. Liberian people experienced the problem, the bad legacy of a government. So this international thing is not impressive. I'm not saying that we don't need to be aligned with the international community, but this idea that John Doe or Mary is an angel and she can hook Liberia up to international or goodies, and that would be the reason for us to support somebody, that's a myth. It doesn't count. We're talking about issues.
Due to time, you can respond to
no, but everybody had a lot of time to talk. Everybody spoke very lengthily.
Right, but by the time you respond to everybody, you answer my question and then the time.
No, but how do you clear out some of these things? I mean, people are making statements against our government, against our party.
No one has made any statements yet, but we will.
I mean, it's just going to be unfair.
We want to distribute the time equally, so it's 3 minutes.
No, but people, no. I mean, people spoke more than 3 minutes.
Right. By the time you respond to all five, you don't have the time.
But I've not spoken for 3 minutes yet. I'm watching my time right here. Each person spoke almost more than 3 minutes for each person. So at least I should have the same time. That one individual spoke. Time for everybody. I'm not saying I should have the equal time for everybody. I mean individually. I'm looking at my clock here. I've not even spoken for 2 minutes yet. And I keep being interrupted. So, but let me just I say these things. There are a lot of serious fundamental issues in the country that ordinary citizens are looking at, and they are looking at the past, and they are looking at those who are clamoring for political office, presidential office, and it just doesn't square with realities. For example, let's look at this thing about the budget performance. The fact that right now the budget is performing far better than the last 12 years of the Unity Party government. That government has almost half of its budget being supported by international funding. This government is having far less than that. So the fact that this government is able to collect more revenue, it says that there's a higher level of transparency and accountability than the past. It's not perfect. I'm not suggesting that it's perfect. But the fact that we're collecting more local revenue, domestic mobilization of resources is higher than the past. There's an increase in transparency and accountability, because in order to collect more revenue into the government, there has to be a level of accountability and a level of transparency. We are not there yet. So that's a difference. When we look to the smaller development that is going across the country, we're even talking about housing units in rural Liberia, places that government has not served for almost 200 years. These things are fundamental issues that ordinary people see. You don't see it, you don't believe in it, you take it as nothing. But if 200 years old country where a president has not gone into a rural part of the country, they have not constructed a road there, they have not built a house there, and the president comes and do that for the first time, that's a lot. It's an issue based. That's an issue, not personality. So that's an issue. The road has gone to that village that has never gone there. It passed through that county. Housing units are going there that have never gone there in the country. Those are fundamental issues that inspire people to say this president is doing good, and for because of that, we'll continue to support him. Those are not personality issues. Those are not personal issues, not electability. They are not electing George Weah, but George Weah built a road to a village. That's development. He built a house in a village. That's development. Those are issues. So again, those who are so intellectually high and have goodies, these little things means nothing to them. And that's a problem. So when you disrespect the ordinary people who have not had this thing over 200 years, and you disrespect them, you laugh at them because they are celebrating this little game, and you say it's nothing, then they look at you as nothing too. So it's a disconnect.
Thank you. Let me go to Mohammed before call. Mohammed, and the same question, right? The idea that all these political leaders, when they come together, that's the only way they can defeat George Weah. Even though, as you said, George Weah did not even debate, he's not doing well, yet they're voting for him. So what difference is that going to make, even if the opposition come together? Is it going to, are the voters going to change now and start listening to the message? Are they going to change now and not focus on the shortcomings and the failures of the current president? What's going to change when all the political parties come together to go against George Weah? And if it will require all this, shouldn't that tell you that George Weah is doing good?
Look, Dennis, nothing in politics, nothing is guaranteed. You're not guaranteed a win. You're not guaranteed a lose. You're not guaranteed anything. You have to work hard at it. You have to work hard for it. So when you come together as a unit, as a conglomeration of political forces with the same goal and desire, then I think that is a prescription for success. Even if it's not a prescription, even if you don't get the executive mansion, there's a probability that you may get seats in the legislature. You may do well, at other levels. So there's nothing is guaranteed. But what I am saying is that in order to even give yourself a chance, you have to be able to come together. And so I think, we, for the most part, besides Chofi, I think for the most part, and maybe Ahmed, we are in agreement that, if the opposition comes together, instead of, having, 200 opposition political parties, some of whom are just in this race, just to, some of the candidates are in the race so that after the election, they can be appointed assistant ministers and directors and deputy directors and whatnot. There has to be this sense of purpose where the opposition is coming together. There is evidence that, when the opposition came together, that they won, in I believe in 2019, 2020, the opposition scored significant victory in the legislative election that was held that year. And so when they fracture, there's also evidence. So there's empirical evidence for what we're saying. And when there is issues, the opposition does well. Dennis, in 1985, this is the reason why the Liberia Action Party did well, because there were issues. The issue at the time was that, the military needed to go back to the barracks. So a lot of people, the Liberian people, were tired of the military. So they didn't want the military on the backs of the Liberian people. So the Liberia Action Party put up the Jackson F. Doe, and the Liberia Action Party did very, very well. The Liberian people responded to the message of the opposition at that time. So there were issues. You know, for the better part of 2 decades now, the Liberian voter has chosen, you know, frivolous issues over real ideological issues, over issues like, you know, who's going to build schools in my neighborhood, who's going to build bridges, who's going to, you know, build hospitals. What about the hospitals? What about clinics? You know, what about our educational system? What about
Mr. Sherry, let me interject, because when you say frivolous issues, I mean, who determines that? The voters or you?
Well, it's subjective, right?
Okay.
It is subjective.
So if what is important to me, you're calling it frivolous.
If it is, Dennis, if it is important to you, that if it's important to you to vote for someone who's not communicating his vision, if that is important to you, then that is your priority. But what I'm saying is that when I aggregate and put everything together, it is not important to me that, you know, he's a celebrity. That's not the most, that's not my priority. Some people's priority are misaligned. And so I think the priority of the Liberian people, we all know what it should be, right? So you know, you look at what's going on, you know, the officials have to travel to Europe and the United States to go for treatment, or they have to go to India to go for treatment. If it was that good, why are they traveling overseas? Why are they going to Ghana and other places for treatment, right? So these people who are voting this way, their priorities are misaligned because they're waiting for the next bag of rice and t-shirt. That is not my priority. I don't need a bag of rice or t-shirt. Okay, and certainly our people should not be voting this way. Our people should be voting on the real issues that affect real people in real time. But that is not what is, you know, a large segment of the population is doing. And there are other segments of the population that are voting because of George Weah's proximity to them. And this is a real issue that is going on right now. I mean, I don't care what you say. You can talk from now, you know, to Judgment Day. Some of those people are not going to, they're not going to change. They're not going to deviate. They're going to stand behind George Weah. And you're hearing some of that tonight, you know, from our colleague from the, you know, from the CDC. So it's what I'm saying. You have to look at the priorities. What are they voting on? He gave us a bag of rice. You know, he came to my church. He came to my masjid. He gave us a bag of rice. He gave us T-shirts. That is not something the Liberian people should be voting for. I don't think.
Thank you. Cole, you got a last word on this issue, and then we can go to the flip side.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to say that you know, the president is not a narcissist means that we don't know what narcissism is, right? So there's the traits of narcissism: inflated ego, lack of empathy, need for attention, some kind of deep-rooted insecurity that they're usually trying to mask. And narcissists have very few boundaries, right? So if you're a narcissist, you just do whatever, whether it's appropriate or not, it doesn't matter, because it's all about your personal satisfaction. So we had the United Nations General Assembly meeting, and they had some very important issues that were brought to the table for the world to pay attention to. Other delegates went back to their countries and briefed them on the important issues that occurred at the United Nations General Assembly. In our case, you know, we were talking about gender issues, the need to empower women and girls. There was a global mandate put out at the UNGA 2022, telling all of the world leaders, let's go back to our countries and lift the shackles off of our girls, basically. And the first thing we hear from our very, very narcissistic superstar president is, I'm home now, as he stands in Queens, New York. I'm home, he says. And I'll be going to Liberia tomorrow, he says. The first thing we hear from our narcissistic president is, you know, he goes in the house and he picks up his football trophy from his past. He is the president. And, you know, look at me. Look at what I had accomplished. It's about him. It's not about UNGA or the purpose of this trip. He's addressing the Liberian people. He's responding about himself. And to say that that is narcissism is to not know what that means. The lack of empathy. He returns to the country. The journalists say, sir, There's a rice crisis. And he dismisses it. Lack of empathy. Women are in the streets, sleeping in line, waiting for rice. And the head of state says, so I don't see any problems. I talked to somebody last year, they said there were no problems. Because it's all about him and his comfort. That's what narcissism is. And I see those traits in opposition leaders as well. But we're here to talk about that. So I wanted to make that clear. The second thing is, in Liberian history, for an incumbent to lose an election, to people that he defeated when he was not an incumbent, for an incumbent to lose an election to candidates that he defeated when he was not an incumbent, it has never happened. I don't know if that's happened anywhere on the planet, and I study politics. I want that to sink in for a minute. And there's a reason why people don't usually do these things. Keep putting the same people against someone that they've already lost to, especially when the person is an incumbent. There's a reason Hillary Clinton didn't go against Trump the second time. They had to put somebody else up. Because if you lost when the person was not an incumbent, for you to defeat that person when they are an incumbent is difficult. It's impossible, really. Very close to impossible. So Weah has to really, really do something so shocking, so disturbing to change this historical trend. And whenever you're projecting, you're doing things, you need to do it based on history and statistics, right? What's already occurred, the numbers. And unfortunately, it isn't, Weah has done many things that warrant his not being reelected. I mean, you have all kinds of scandals, and the emphasis is not on the scandals. The emphasis of the opposition is to fight the opposition. And that's where the failure has been. Because if ever there was an incumbent that was poised to lose re-election, it would be Weah. But because of the incompetence of the opposition, the lack of vision, the selfishness, that they would rather tear the baby than to yield to someone else to raise the country up where it needs to go. That's really the issue. So it's not that Weah has earned it. The issue isn't that he has earned it. The issue, you playing the video?
Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, so this is people waiting for rice while the president's saying that they're not waiting for rice. This is sad. So it's not that he has earned his role, it's that the opportunity for our people to say, here, we have a better alternative. We deserve better. Let's get out of our political Stockholm syndrome, our trauma bonding, and realize that we deserve better. Our children deserve to live like all the other children in the world. We deserve a higher standard. Instead of the opposition doing that, the opposition is fighting the opposition and telling people to vote for them just because they're better. It's one of the saddest things I've ever witnessed. And if it doesn't change, the chances of Weah winning are very high, very, very high.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Labrador Tough Talking Thursday. We are ready to talk tough even more. At this time, we're going to flip it the other way. What will it take for Weah to win? And for this, I will start with the sedition, Choppy Charlie. Choppy, I know you tell us that we are going to win. So tell me, what will it take for Weah to win? Nothing? It was just win or what?
It's like I said earlier, but the discussion here tonight is a reflection of why Weah is going to win. All I've heard tonight is criticism. I've not heard about how the country can move forward. I've not heard ideas.
No, and the purpose of the show is to tell what it will take. So,
but what will it take? I've not heard that. What will it take?
Yeah, what will it take for Weah to lose?
Yeah, it has been. What it will take for Weah to lose? What other people needs to do? It has all been a criticism against Weah. So that's one of the problems that we're having in the country with the opposition, the critics against Weah. And before I come to the question you asked about the opposition, again, I have to always do this. George Weah, the criticism about George Weah that he's not communicating to the country. He's not communicating. Again, at the same time, we want to criticize George Weah that it shouldn't be about George Weah as a person, and we also want to make the politics about George Weah as a person. George Weah is a member of a political party and institution. One of the things that we did in the CDC when we founded this organization was to communicate as an institution. The CDC is the only political party, and the records are there. And most of the time, I hear people say the CDC have no vision, they have no platform. There was a platform that was published to the search, you will see it, the Agenda for Prosperity, that they have changed to the pro-poor agenda. We had our agenda in 2004 when we ran, it was published, it was upgraded in 2011, it was upgraded in 2017. So for every election cycle, we have updated our Agenda for Prosperity, and now it has changed over to the pro-poor agenda for development. So the CDC came into the political space with an agenda, a platform document. And it is that platform document that we use to communicate our message across the country. It was not an individual, it was not about George Weah. So again, the point has been missed all along. Let me just close on the final point before I answer your question. The question of empathy. Again, it's not about George Weah. If a president comes to the country and they ask him about the arrest situation, what is there? What kind of empathy should the president show when the issue is whether rice was in the country? If the president dismissed the argument that there's rice shortage, that's not a lack of empathy. There's no rice shortage in the country. The president says there's rice available. There's no lack of empathy there. He's speaking to the issues. And the fact is, rice is in the country. And this issue has been addressed. So we got to stop mischaracterizing and using these words to please a narrow viewpoint. Now, coming to what the opposition needs to do, that's the question, right?
What will it take for Weah to win? What Weah needs to do to win?
Okay, like I said, all Weah needs to do is to keep doing the good things that he has been doing. For example, he has been expanding, taking government to the people, ordinary people in the country, across the country. Government now is not like Monrovia. For example, there are a lot of places in Liberia before George Weah became president where even cell phone, even though we say that each government, these things move above, but we have, as the record reflect, over $17 billion direct investment was in Liberia during the 12 years rule of Mr. Joseph Boakai and his Unity Party. But almost the whole country was incommunicable. I mean, you just could not communicate in most parts of Liberia. If you went to a place called Fagonahun in Lofa County, these people, vehicle could not even reach to that town. And it's a very populated place in Lofa County. As a result of George Weah's presidency, these people now are experiencing government. They are feeling the impact of government. If you went to places like Refugee County, these are some of the, Refugee County is one of the places that was almost like an Asian place. It was outside Liberia. These people were dealing with Ivory Coast. Most parts of the Southeast were dealing with Ivory Coast. Today, these people are experiencing government, even in places like Lima County. So what George Weah can continue to do is to continue to take government to the people, for the people to experience government. And the idea that George Weah can fix Liberia at 200 years bad governance in 6 years is another myth. This argument that George Weah has failed, nobody can develop Liberia in 6 years. I challenge anybody to show me that prescription. It's going to be a gradual process. And once there's progress, we're going to keep moving. And over a period of time, we'll reach where we have to be as a country.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, what will it take for Weah to win a second term?
It seems as though the question is already defeated because the opposite question dealt with this one more than itself. What would it take for President Weah to win re-election? I think that a lot of policy shift could happen. They could redirect, some of the negative image about the country. Look, I don't care you like it or not. A country cannot exist in isolation. Countries are like human beings. You operate in a neighborhood, you operate in a committee of nations, in international, you're part of international organizations. That's why President Weah came to the UNGA and they were celebrating when he, delivered his speech, and there was photo op and all of that, because it's important. You have to be part of the global community. So that image, the whole issue of corruption and sanction, that the U.S. government is going after very senior officials of the administration. What we're hearing is there's more lists coming. They're going after human rights and other types of issues like that. It just speaks volume that there's displeasure around the world about some of the things that are happening in the country. And if that's happening, President, try to change some of that image, try to address some of that. Domestically, as all politics, it says local, it's about the voters, the domestic voters, the real bread and butter issues. People, I don't underestimate Liberians. I wouldn't say they're not issues voter, because they're issues that brand people. The children are struggling to get an education. Their tuition issues, school quality, healthcare issues, food. Just put food on the table. People are struggling. The economy, money in the country. I mean, the officials will tell you, look, we inherited a country where army withdrew. There were all kinds of global shocks and commodity issues. So it's not just a domestic problem. There's an international problem, coupled with challenges that, we came out of Ebola, COVID-19 is a global issue now, the Russia-Ukraine crisis, food shortages around the world. Yeah, these are the arguments that they tell us when we talk to them. But your responsibility domestically, of course, is to govern, is for the safety and protection of your people, provide for them the basic services, meet your end of the social contract. And so that some of those issues that are, the grievances that we're hearing the ordinary people, voters talk about, right? Look, we all Liberians here. We have relatives in the country. We have friends in the country. We talk to every day. With social media, you're far away, but you can communicate live with people, so in real time what the issues are. So I think there's some basic governance realignment. If I were advising the president, or if the president were listening to anything that any of us would say, you have to address some of those basic domestic issues that are creating hardship, creating more fragility, a sense of insecurity, economic difficulty, and just a very contracted business environment where a lot of companies have closed, no FDI coming to the country, foreign direct investment coming to the country, domestic investors, Liberians who left from the diaspora, went home and established businesses. A lot of them has closed shop because of the business environment, doing business environment in the country. So there are a lot of issues that the president could pay attention to, begin to soften the ground towards election period. Of course, they're doing very quick impact, sort of impulsive electoral projects and things like that. And those things, people vote for those kinds of things, but they're a real serious issue I think they could begin to work on.
Thank you. Carl, let me come to you here. Is based on what I heard before, it's like everything depends on the opposition. That is, what is the opposition not doing, right? So, but let me ask you this: if we look at the question here is, what should we do to win a second term? But what I heard you say, if I may paraphrase, is so everything depends on the opposition. If the opposition is not doing X, Y, Z, Weah is going to win. So let me ask you this: we look at the economy, look at healthcare, rights and rights, if I may borrow from my colleagues of the 1970s, the role of the West. We went through sanction and all those things. Is there anything Weah needs to do in that direction if he must win his second term?
I mean, I think it's very easy for Weah to correct all of his missteps. And he can do it very quickly. Because the first thing is our people don't really ask for much, right? Our people are not asking for much. They're asking for the basic things that government is supposed to provide for its citizens. The whole purpose that government exists in the first place, you know, security, rule of law. These are things that, you know, economic opportunity, the whole reason we're in this social contract called a country, a constitution, is because it's supposed to be reciprocal, right? The citizens, they pay taxes, they obey laws, and the government is there to make sure that their lives are collectively improved. So Weah doesn't really, it's not really that difficult. He needs to look at these positions in government and realize that they are not there as a reward for loyalty, but as a responsibility for those who are prepared to take on those tasks and deliver to the people. And if he corrects this very counterintuitive, kind of almost backward way of appointing people to positions, and he really puts people in positions that are able to accomplish just the very basic goals and tasks of providing for citizens, he will win the Liberian people over very easily. Education. Schools are not buildings. Schools are curriculum. Schools are educators. Schools are books and laboratories and all of the technical things that go around education. For some reason, people think schools are buildings. So they're building buildings, giant buildings all over the place. No synchronized curriculum, inadequate educators who have not been built up. So come up with an education plan, build up some teachers, say, hey, look, we're getting these teachers, we're gonna build their capacity, and we're going to emphasize on human capital development. We are going to, offer incentives for Liberian-owned corporations. There's a lot of Liberian millionaires all over the place. We're going to give them incentives to come home and build the economy. We are going to network with our regional bodies. There's so many things he can do. One of the things that he did that I was actually impressed with, that Liberia did at the UNGA, was for the first time, they made a diplomatic tie with Jamaica. This is huge. The amount of technology transfer and human capital transfer that could happen between the two countries. These kinds of visionary things. Instead of worrying about who said you can't leave the UN building and who said this, focus on things that will uplift the country. It's very easy to do if you mean well, if you really have the right intention. Going around and bluffing with infrastructure when human capital is going down the drain, when babies are being poisoned by all of the filth that's getting into our groundwater supply, when the air quality is so substandard, that there's carcinogens all over the air in Monrovia. You're breathing in Monrovia, you're putting your life at risk. When you hear some of these things, it's disturbing. We're not addressing that. We're talking about, y'all say I can't leave UN building. Here I am at my home. Stop telling people that your home is Queens and that you'll be going to Liberia in the morning. No president of a country should be talking this way. So these are little things. Just be serious. Don't say things that offend and disrespect the Liberian people, and you'll go far. You saying Liberia looks like Miami. Why are you saying this?
You said Monrovia, not Liberia.
I mean, Monrovia looks like Miami. Maybe during the Jurassic era, this was true. Pre-human occupation. The geological features are very similar. There's estuaries and swamplands and stuff. So yeah, you compare the two places, maybe 800 years ago. There's probably a lot of similarities, geologically speaking. But that's not what he was talking about. You have to, really, and this is for anyone who's running for office, just do what you're being elected to do. You're not being elected to DJ and entertain us. You're being elected to put things into place that will lift the standard of living. And most importantly, lift the human capital to a place where because the country cannot develop faster than the human beings. You can literally take Miami and put it on top of Monrovia, and everything will collapse because the human capital is being ignored. We've got some of the most brilliant minds in the world being born in that soil. By the time they reach adulthood, they have been neglected, they have been miseducated, poorly educated, and they don't have the opportunity to reach their full potential. This is what I want George Weah to start focusing on, any politician start focusing on.
Thank you. That word miseducation used to be the big word of Choppy Charlie when he was running against Ellen. Now everything is gold now. It's 200 here. Mr. Sharif, it took the United States to finally, in air quotes, clip the wings of the de facto Prime Minister McGill. So we have sanctions, and so McGill and 3 other colleagues had to go because of corruption. Will it take something like that for Weah to lose? Also, we noticed that anytime our colleagues like Choppy mentioned development in Liberia, we are only counting deliverables and nobody is paying attention to outcomes and impact. For instance, you will hear someone talk about he pays WIAC fees. He had done this for school. He built this school building, or he renovated this, or free tuition at the university. But nobody is going to measure the impact. You build this hospital, but how are we sicker now than before? Nobody is measuring the impact of this development. Will these things matter? Will these things make Weah to lose? Or he just doesn't have to do anything because, as you said, the opposition is weak, the opposition is not together, and the opposition is not on message. So Weah just can fold his hand and still win?
Early on.
Go ahead again, Mr. Sherry, you were muted. Go ahead.
Yeah, so early on, Masa mentioned that George Weah has this personality where he's almost like this sort of carefree personality, right? Doesn't carry himself seriously. That's why he's dropping record labels, right? So he's singing instead of managing the Republic of Liberia, which is a big task, right? So he just sings. He go out and play soccer. He goes out. He does different things like you and I would do, right? I mean, for the president. So as he can continue to do those things, right? Mm-hmm. Just continue to do those things, and it's not going to hurt him. That's how low the bar is. It's not going to hurt him if he continues to sing. If he continues, even if he goes ahead and release a song every other week, it's not going to hurt him. You're going to have the Chuffy Charlies of this world, the Wilma Conings of this world, still supporting George Weah. For them, he is the Messiah. So they're not going to turn away from George Weah because of those things. And you have hundreds of thousands of Chuffy Charlies. You have hundreds of thousands of Wilma Conings. So there is not going to be, any difference what George Weah does. So what is it going to take catastrophically to say, for these people to start to change their mind? I don't know if someone like, our colleague tonight is going to change. I don't know if it's going to take the United States sanction or European sanction. It's probably not going to take that. That's probably going to harden the core voters for George Weah. They're going to say, you know what, that sanction, you sanction him, we're going to still vote for him. Did you watch McGill when he, went to Margibi recently? You should saying that. So this is someone that, that we all know, even before the United States sanction, we all know that, he was one of the corrupt officials in the George Weah administration by his own admission. So he's out of government and he's trying to get back in. So he's going to be running for the Senate. He may probably win. Again, this is Liberia. So George Weah does not have to do much to win. And Cole mentioned history, which is very important. In the 175-year history of Liberia. All George Weah needs to do is to look at history, at which he worked. So he can look at history to say, incumbents usually have won. Dennis, it's only been 2 times or 3 times in the 175-year history of Liberia that incumbents have lost. It's not very often that incumbents are losing, in Liberia through a combination of fraud and different things, intimidations and whatnot. Incumbents have been able, for the most part, to hold on to their position, to hold on to their job, to fend off the opposition. So George Weah can learn from history. Certainly, he can watch this show tonight and know that fact. Know that for a fact. So he does not need to do much. He's already doing the thing.
Yeah. So tell me, if he doesn't need to do much, what does he need to do?
Being on serious. Stealing more money. Being on serious. Don't carry yourself seriously. Release more songs. It sounds cynical, but I'm very serious. Release more songs. Continue to play soccer with the boys. Continue to let everybody lose so that they can steal more money. Go out there into the marketplace. You build one market store, and you go out there, and there's a whole big celebration for something that's supposed to happen anyway. So continue to do those things. Go somewhere and dedicate a bridge. Okay, go to Zwedru and do something, right? Go to Kawikan, build a bridge between Kilipo and Welabokin. And then, then of course, it doesn't take much for him to win, Dennis. And this is what I'm trying to communicate here.
Thank you. I got you. Let me go to Masa to have the last word on this, and then we can take calls, read comments, and go to the Tabata session. Masa, your turn. What does it take for Weah to win a second term?
Well, I don't think it takes much for George Weah to win a second term. And before I go,
you guys are lowering the bar so much.
Before I go, explicitly into that, let me just say to Ahmed. Ahmed expressed a bit of, I think, not really frustration, for the lack of a better word, but he thought that the responses that some of us are giving is like us. He thinks people are campaigning for Weah here. No, it's not. When we speak, we're simply, like me, when I speak on this issue, I'm simply basing my comments and my thoughts on what I think the reality is on the ground, and not necessarily what should be. So if we were discussing what should be, maybe it would be different, but we're talking about what is the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground is George Weah is a popular individual, he's a popular president, and he's having a light presidency. And everybody else have been saying things, somehow to that. George Weah doesn't need much to win re-elections. And here are some of the reasons why I think so. One, he's still popular. And secondly, the opposition is fractal. If opposition is fractal, they have not recovered from that CPP or coalition. There was so much damage done in terms of the infighting. So what the CPP actually did was they dealt some very heavy blows on each other with the parties that were fighting. And it's going to take, it's going to take them a long time to really, really, really come back to status quo. And so the opposition is still reeling, they're still dealing with that. I like to call it the residue of the CPP fallout, they're still dealing with it. Then, of course, Carl mentioned some narcissistic tenets and behavior. And I think one of the things is that up until now, within the opposition bloc, nobody has said yet definitively that if that's how it will be, I'm willing to be a vice presidential running mate to XYZ candidate. It doesn't matter. We just want to be able to win this. None of them have made that commitment yet fully. Nobody has. From the different teams, I think just last night I was reading somewhere where the Gonglo people were commenting that somebody has said that Gonglo would be a good vice presidential candidate to Cummings, and then the Gonglo people were saying no, Gonglo is running for the presidency, not the vice presidency. And then also the same thing is happening, with whatever the CPP is, the fraction of the Unity Party, the fraction of the Liberty Party, and also the ANC, and then the Unity Party by itself. So, and then the Cassell's party. So, I think these are some of the narcissistic tendencies or syndromes, symptoms that they're showing us that I think Cole was talking about. And then also some of the opposition, I don't see the opposition as having the kind of finances that they would really need to match George Weah. Now, they may not be able to match George Weah a dollar for a dollar, but, we see a couple of, maybe except for Mr. Cummings, who they say he's a millionaire. I don't know him personally. I don't know much about his finances, but he seems to have some money. Now, with the rest of them, I don't know how much money they have to really, really take Weah on when it comes to, to the nitty-gritty. And then one of the things that concern me with the opposition, and I think that will make it easy for Weah, is that this thing with just attacking people, just insulting everybody. They insult each other. They have insulted each other forever and ever, basically tore each other apart. They insult everybody else who has an opinion. You can be the most moderate person. You can give the most moderate of opinions. As long as one of them don't think that's what you should have said, no matter how moderate, they come after you. There's just no respect for people. So you're asking people to support you. You're still looking to build your base, but then in the meantime, you're so quick to dismiss everybody else in the meantime and just be rude and insulting to everybody else who has an opinion. So with that kind of thing, what it does for the opposition is that it distracts them. They waste their limited resources and time insulting everybody else who has an opinion, including independents, and then it distracts them. So the message, it derails from the message, whatever message they have that they want to get across. So it's that they're like just all over the place. They're all over the place. So the opposition is not as consolidated and as organized. I think at this time maybe they will get there, but they really need to re-strategize. First, they need to stop fighting everybody, stop insulting everybody who has an opinion, stop using strong words, everybody who has an opinion against one opposition or leader. That person hates that person because they say something. So you need to stop doing that. There's just too much hatred against everybody else coming from the opposition bloc. And with Weah, I say Weah doesn't have to do much. All Weah has to continue doing is maybe he needs to look into this issue, make sure he got rice on the market for people, because you see the video, people fighting for rice. Weah just has to make sure that he has enough rice on the market. Weah is already campaigning in advance. People are not paying attention. Weah has built that invisible park. It's a big thing for the people because, that's the biggest playground they have had since the war. When we were kids, they had a merry-go-round and stuff like that, but that's the biggest official playground that the traumatized people of Liberia had. Somebody suffering from depression can just go sit there and watch people play soccer and even watch the president play. Like I said, George Weah is making himself accessible. So, if you're suffering from depression or you're hungry, you have not eaten all day, you can go over there and sit there and probably you see someone who's going to show you like a $5 or so. You can go there when they have enough water, you can go in the swimming pool. So that park is a big thing. And then those people may think is nothing. Where I agree with Choppy Charlie is that we are carrying those small housing units in these impoverished communities, the one he built in Yukutown, the one he's built in the counties and stuff. It goes a long way because I saw those women dancing, beating their chests and say, nobody brought this to us before. We never seen this before. And so, we just need to make less music, make sure more rice is available for the people, and just continue doing what he's doing in terms of the low development projects that he's doing. But honestly,
including the Buga dance.
it would take, but don't forget the Liberian people too. You see, we have to understand our people's psychology. From what I see, again, I don't want to be disrespectful to the ordinary Liberians, but the Liberian people, they work hard, but I think they also love to play. And they see Weah as that president that recognizes them. He represents them in a way that he's accessible. Weah is accessible. Weah is jovial. Weah is a classical joker. He likes to throw jokes. He likes for people to be relaxed. You know, he would dance and all of that. So, you know, they love that. The Liberian people love that.
Thank you, Marcia. Let me bring in one caller. We'll take a short break and then we go to our Tabata session. The caller is a strong sedition, Melecine Yadolo. Go ahead, you're live, sir.
Thank you so much, Dene. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to make my contribution to the show. I just want to reference some of the issues the panelists were talking about.
Right, Melecine, we want you. Hold on. We want you to tell us what will it take for Weah to lose, and what will it take for Weah to win? If you can do that.
Dennis, there is no way Weah will lose election. Let me just come here and tell you.
Okay.
Number one, from the soccer page, Weah entered politics in 2005. Among veteran Liberian politicians, highly educated Liberian politicians, Weah took first place in the first round, beating all of them. Some of them could not even acquire 1%. 0.01% was some of them percentage they acquire. We have to first round. He and Eddie went to second round. It was very difficult for Eddie to beat that election. Majority of Liberians believe that we were cheated. 2011, we have stepped down as vice president, came down to vice president and gave the Senate to Winston Thomas. They went to election with an incumbent president who has spent successful 6 years. Who were campaigning on our accomplishment on our 6 years. So we are king first in the first round. The incumbent could not beat Joe Weah by even talking in the first round based on what she accomplished. Second round, CDC pulled out of the second round because of the shooting of CDC on the eve of the runoff. And then was declared winner. Eddie's son of President's son, he and a man had the money in the country. So we have politically massacred in the most senatorial election. That's the scenario to tell you that Joe Weah cannot be defeated by any group in Liberia.
Thank you.
So now that he's president, he has accomplished some unprecedented thing in Liberia. I'm a Nimbani. I'm speaking to you as a Nimbani. The road from Ganta to Southeast is the longest unpaved road in Liberia. Only Samuel Doe started on our road and the water machine. And he spent 12 years in power, the second longest serving president in Liberia history next to William D. Thomas. Received billions of dollars in Liberia. She could not touch our road. Right now, as I live for here today, I go to Liberia. I ride on pavement to my village. The road has gone near Secretary, and my home is before Secretary. I will ride on pavement all the way to my village. So you think the value went out for Georgia? Then from Ganta to Loguatu, from Ganta to Africa Polo, major international highway.
Thank you, Melecine.
The pavement is going to the Polo. These are significant accomplishments. Our brother and sister in the diaspora will sit there and say, the man has done nothing. The man has done nothing. I think that's significant in their eyes.
Thank you. Don't talk too hard before. Don't let it bother you. The president will come and go.
I wish I could speak Mano to my brother.
Melecine.
Broken down and they are rebuilding it to a modern building. When completed, will be one of the largest government houses in the country.
Melecine.
Speak your Mano to calm him down.
Yeah, I wish I could.
Okay,
Oh man, I like that guy. He's passionate.
All right, thank you. We'll take a short break.
Look, I need to find that guy and give him a prize.
Absolutely.
When we come back, we'll go to our Tabata session every week. Every day there's some Tabata going on somewhere, and our panelists will be happy to weigh in. At this time, let's listen to our friend, the Jida Rooster, the Bassa King.
àmọ́ máa yan kò sán o wíyẹ kí a sàn sàn nànà mú o. Kí wọ́n pa nígbà tó wí ọ̀tọ̀ ọmọ ní òòyà ló mọ̀ sí àwíyé yẹ o. Àmọ́ máa yan kò sán o wíyẹ kí a sàn sàn dẹ̀ndẹ̀ mú o. Kí wọ́n pa nígbà tó wí ọ̀tọ̀ ọmọ ní òòyà ló mọ̀ sí àwíyé yẹ o. Kí wọ́n ṣe pààyàn ju owó kí yìí ṣe pààyàn ju owó kí yìí.
Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday. Let me take just one caller on the line, and that's Ajume Julate Cassell. Ajume, you have 59 seconds because we want to go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, what Madam Washington was saying, I really do agree with her. First of all, the whole opposition, there's nobody I see confident enough to give my Liberia to. And when it comes to George, let's just stay with what is there for now until somebody competent, somebody that's really in for the job and wants to do it for the sake of doing the job, not for the sake of enriching yourself or for the sake of being powerful or whatever in the land, for the sake of the land, for the sake of the good and the benefit of the people and the country. Until we can find him, I'm not going to touch George. And for now, I already told Madam Cole, my sister and prof and colleague, I already told her I resign myself to George staying there for now. I don't even have any other thought for anybody. And anybody can take right now in opposition, we are going to make a big mistake. I'm saying that. So, as a Liberian, don't just leave Georgia for now. And Liberians are okay with Georgia because we don't have a standard that we have given ourselves. You know, like we've been abused so long. So you just don't know what an abuse is. We don't even know we've been running a team. Most of us, I'm sorry, I'm not insulting or condescending to anybody. But most Nigerians, we have been so abused for so long. We don't even know what running our government is. As a man, like, you know what a democratic government is. They don't even know. So they don't even know when their rights are involved.
Thank you, Ayume.
Okay, with the little. Yeah, but so that's just my little two cents.
Yeah, thank you so much. We got one more caller. When I will read comments, I was forgetting comments, and thank you for reminding me. Adam Abdallah said, only a miracle can make President Weah to win another 6 years. Praise Johnson, if you are dealing with normal people, I'm 100% with you, but the people you are talking about, they don't vote on policies. Before we continue more comments, let me bring in Sarah Sine. Sarah, you're live. Go ahead. You have 58 seconds, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity provided. Let me quickly remind the guy from the CDC who were giving statistics. If you will look at probably the past administration, most of the projects, particularly road projects and other stuff that are being implemented by this government, are projects that have already been signed and money were made available. If you talk about, I listened to, I don't know, is it Miss Washington? Are you telling me that someone hungry will go on the park and will see somebody who will give XYZ? Is that why the park was built for, to be a begging place? Come on, let us be serious with, as Liberia, not because we live in a country where almost everything is available to us and we denigrate our people. Leadership, right now, if you organize an election in Liberia, the CDC will lose election. Regardless of even down to the citizens are afraid to even appear on radio stations, to even answer some of the questions that have been posed. They are the ones that are insulting people here and there, with the exception of a few opposition people. So the opposition and the ruling party are all in this game of insults.
Thank you.
The ballots that are on the street, are the opposition the one who's doing the killing? And you sit on a platform and you want to say George is still popular? Even with all his popularity, he could not run a straight election. He had to amalgamate forces with other people to win elections. Where are those people today?
Thank you. Thank you, Cyrus.
Joking and not being real. the bread and butter issues are in the country that the government, your government is refusing, to take responsibility of, alone can be able to defeat them.
Thank you.
So if you think a lot, 2023 coming, you go back to Liberia, you'll see the difference.
Thank you. Thank you so much. 2023, come here. Let's see this. All right. So let's continue with more comments, and then I'll give at least two Choppy and Washington and Massa a chance to respond. This one say no political parties in Liberia that can unseat President Weah. Liberian resolve. Nobody is stupid here. We are seeing the tangibles, not muff talk. Paul Johnson, Liberia has regressed under this Booker dancer of a president. And then Patrick responded, say, who brought Booker dance in Liberia? Almost say the country is not safe. No rule of law. Education system is terrible. Gabi Tucker, an extraordinary court of personality have been created around the president. After all, he is a superstar footballer across Africa and within the Republic. Liberians are bewitched by his star power more so than substance that matters. So yes, the incumbent has a huge advantage. Keep your comments coming. There are a lot of comments here. Ayumeka says, say, opposition, they all have no real commitment to the common good of the land but selfish interest. Solomon Guse, opposition cannot maintain full political party. How is it possible to take care of Mama Liberia? They are not ready at all. They are still in play. President George Weah will beat them massively, and if they are not careful, it will be one round. We are waiting to re-elect our president. Let them be insulting him. The result will tell. Augustus Leopold, President Weah is depending on the bad guys to rule the government because he has no ideas of government. This is why he cannot make a change in the government. Achimo Frederick, Patrick Jewett, bravo, President Weah don't need to do more at all. President Weah have done enough on this side. Achimo say, Ms. Massa, the things you are attributing to the opposition, isn't that politics in Liberia and the USA? More and more comment. We can't read all of the comments here. Evans is enjoying the Baza tune. Yeah, that's Cesar Gata, the Baza King. So you heard from our callers and few of the comments. Choppy, what's your response? 1 minute.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Well, the callers, I think, generally has made the point. And the interesting thing about this thing is that when I listen to people say, for example, those supporting President Weah view him as a messiah, and so that's why they support him, and they will not be changed or persuaded. And then we ask the question, and the very opposition poll themselves admit the opposition has not presented a better alternative. The opposition has not inspired good leadership. So then how can you say it is because of a messianic complex that people are supporting George Weah? When you have not presented a better alternative, you admit that the opposition has been incapable and incompetent. Why should I then move away from an incumbent president that is making progress and move to people who have not presented a better case for the country? That's an oxymoron kind of argument. And this is why, again, we continue to say to the opposition or folks who criticize George Weah, you have to think the argument you're making does not square with reality. Until you understand these realities, all politics are local, and understand what affects ordinary people in Liberia and make a case to inspire people, then we'll have a better case. And let me just close on this point. And Cole makes a point which I don't really agree most of the time, but she said one of the questions she raises, which is very great, she talked about governance issues. Any government, any institution, any organization, there's always room for improvement. So some of the governance issues she talks about that the government needs to do and the president needs to do, I believe those are valid points. Plus, she said very profoundly that you cannot take the same team that have been defeated. Because we have defeated these people in the opposition and you bring the same thing to play. We are not going back to Egypt. Don't bring that same thing to face George Weah. They're going to be massacred and flogged at the battle box. If you have brought a new team, a new person, maybe we'll have a competition.
Thank you. Ms. Washington, 1 minute.
Wow. So let me just say, so that I think one of the callers and then another one. Well, like I always say, I will speak against what I see as the reality and what I know the reality is, rather than what I think you want to hear or what you want me to say. If you know me, you will know I'm not a perfect person, but I try to stay to the truth as much as possible. Now, I made an analogy, an example of the invisible park. Now, if you think that park is not important to ordinary Liberians, I don't know whether you got people in Liberia who telling you, or whether you've seen the pictures or whether you've seen the videos. Every single day, Liberians flock to that park. In any given time, especially on weekends, you could have anywhere between 100, 200 to 300 people there. It is significant. You may not want to agree, but it is significant. If you think that the people in Yukutan whose homes were being carried away by erosion, and then Weah goes there and build these housing units. So whether we think those housing units are of standard or not, whether we think they have proper foundation, whether the foundations are high and strong enough, the idea is these people were facing erosion, their homes, their zinc shacks were being blown away, and Weah comes and put some form of decent housing there for them according to their own livelihood. Guess what? It means a lot to them. So I'm sorry, I'm not saying what you would like me to say, because I like to say what I think the truth is and not necessarily what you want me to say. And I will say again, based upon I visit Liberia every year. It's only this year I have now gone, but every single year I visit Liberia and I keep in touch closely with what's happening in Liberia. And from what I see, the opposition has work to do to really unseat George Weah. And I'm not saying it's because he's a perfect president. I'm not running campaign for him. I'm not a member of the CDC. I have no direct connection to George Weah, but I'm just saying it based upon what I see. Our people, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of them are idle voters. They do not vote on issues. George Weah does not address the economy. The Liberian people will not sweat it, because guess what? They don't even understand what the economy is. Okay? George Weah,
and that's why I disagree with a lot of people.
I hope he will work on the security issue, because I'm very concerned about that. Every day you get up, somebody they find bodies in the community, people getting. So I really hope that he will work on the security issue, because it's big for me. But regardless, with all those things, I think Weah still has that popularity that can see him win re-elections. But it depends on the opposition and how the opposition wants to handle this.
Thank you. Prepare your Tabata session, and we're going to be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Exactly, I'm right here, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. This is Tough Talking Thursday. At this time, we're going to go around the room for your Tabata of the week. Tabata is a Southeastern word meaning complete nonsense. Foolishness. So any foolishness in the country that you want to mention today, please do that now. And let's start with Ms. Washington. Ms. Washington, what's your Tabata of the week?
Well, I think I will be very unpopular when I state my Tabata, but that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the personality of George Weah is that he's a practical joker. I think the person likes to throw jokes. I think he jokes a lot, and some people get it, some people don't. So for me, my Tabata of the week is the way Liberians have ran away with this. Morovia is like Miami thing. I think George Weah was joking, and I think people are, they are literally interpreting what he meant. I think he was joking. I may be wrong. So I just think it's just much ado about nothing. The way it's going viral, I mean, it's like one of those things now. I think it's going to win some award from TikTok. But I think he was joking. So I think for me, it's the tabata of the week. That people are literally interpreting what he meant.
He said Monrovia is balling. He meant the balling part. It's balling.
Yeah, he said Monrovia is like Miami. So you know, I think it's much ado about nothing. I think he was joking.
Mr. Sharif, what's your tabata of the week?
My again, George Weah. George Weah goes ahead and and show his Ballon d'Or trophy that was won in 1995. I mean, that was back in 1995, and so this president, continues to do things, and we just talk about this. He's very much serious. He doesn't carry himself seriously. He doesn't carry that office seriously. He doesn't think the executive mansion or the presidency is important. And he shows the Ballon d'Or in exactly the way I remember when it was presented to him. That's the way he lifted up the trophy that night when we watched this in cinema. Do you remember cinema, Dennis?
In Dorota.
Yes, when we watched it, that's the way he lifted the trophy, and that's the exact way he lifted that trophy that day. So, I mean, there's no room for that, man. That's so not right for him to do. And this is the same president who bought a slingshot and he took pictures and put that on Facebook. I mean,
thank you. Thank you. Let me go to call for Tabata of the week. Call.
Yes. So I would say the conduct and appearance of the delegation to the United Nations General Assembly was really disrespectful to the country. And, this whole thing where people say, that we need to give people time and we need to people, as if to say when you're talking about someone being native, it means that they are unkept, disrespectful, unruly, flamboyant, and any negative connotation. It's like we've swallowed this and then we say, that native people we in office, so we will go away bright yellow. I will put my backpack in front because I'm a native woman, and I will wear big shirt, and I will play on my cell phone in the middle of UNG. I will play game because we the native people. It's a disrespect. As a mono woman from God Clan, Nimba County, that does not represent me and my people. We are respectful and respectable. We conduct ourselves at all times with dignity, even in our poverty. So my biggest tabata is the way that delegation disrespected the country and presented Liberians on a world stage as buffoons who do not know how to conduct themselves in public, who don't know how to carry themselves, and it is shameful, and they ought to apologize, and it should never be repeated.
Thank you. Let's go to Blue Jay Nation for his Tabata of the week.
I don't know if I will get the chance to do that, but my Tabata was a UNG photo, which is A and B. I don't know if I'll do that A and B thing. The A part is this Miami thing. I was in the room with the president when he made that statement. It's a funny kind of statement, like Master have said, but if one look at the totality of what the president said, then we appreciate the statement itself. And I can imagine a lot of people will have convulsion tonight if I try to make that case. But the president was discussing about road connectivity from point A to point B. So you have two communities. In one community, from point A.
Is that your Tabata or you explain?
The Miami 4, the Miami, I'm trying to explain it. That's a Tabata because the people are jumping around with it and dancing and making all kind of memes and all kind of funny things. So it's important that for some of us who are in the room to explain these things so other people can have appreciation for what the president said. The president was talking about road connectivity. And he discussed how it was difficult to even go to Johnsonville at one point when he became president. And so he said that the communities in the place were not connected from one point to another point. But now, during his presidency, most of these communities are connected from one community to another community. So it doesn't matter the type of infrastructure. He was not discussing infrastructure development. But I can move from community A to go to community B. Just as you have in Miami, you can move from one community to go to another community.
So why Miami? Why not Atlanta? Why
you use any city? Probably.
Right.
I mean, that's what I say. It could be any city.
What's your Tabata of the week?
So my Tabata is the opposition are jumping around with this thing like so.
Mata said the same thing, man. Find different Tabata. Man.
Jay, the president was not joking because I thought he was joking.
Yeah, he was explaining it as a joke, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. Mata made a point. He was discussing the role and he just brought in the
but the way you explaining now, you explaining like it was a serious comment, my man. I kind of think it was joking.
He was discussing road connectivity. He just said, "Oh, Miami." So he was not like saying that. That's what I'm telling you. He was not saying that Monrovia is like Miami. He was not saying that Monrovia is like Miami.
It's balling. He said right now.
No. He was not saying Monrovia is like Miami.
He said
no. Not saying that.
Come on, man. We all saw the video.
Again, the discussion with road. He was not saying that. Oh, Monrovia is like Miami. No. Nobody was saying that kind of
stuff. We agree. You can put it in context, but he did say, Monrovia is like
yes, because like I said, he was describing the rule and he just going at it. It was a serious story to say, oh, Monrovia is like Miami. That's not what he meant. So I just brought up when the second Tabata and I mean,
Choppy, let Amen go. Go ahead. Amen, your Tabata of the week.
Your Tabata has changed the Tabata tradition to now.
Yeah. It's very important. It's very important to slap so many things down. You're taking this too serious, man. You're taking this thing too serious. These are not serious issues. These are not serious issues.
That's why Mohammed continued to say that the president is not serious.
No. The president is serious, but it doesn't mean the president can have fun. The president is not stiff. He's a human being.
You gotta work too, right? You have fun, but you gotta work.
You're taking this too serious, man. You got serious issues.
Dennis, for the president of the republic who has just left the UNGA to actually take time and energy and the consciousness to think about it, to sort of orchestrate and curate a scene to prove that his visa was not restricted. He said, look at me. I'm at my house. I'm, 2 days. They say I can't leave my hotel or I can't leave That was something that really shocked me. To be really honest, like the president didn't have to do that. They didn't have to prove anything. Look, I tell people, whether you support a president or not, the presidency has certain inherent power and authority and respect and right that goes with it. Sometimes the president doesn't have to say a word and would have said a whole lot. But that the president actually went on camera to prove to people scenery where he is and how to sort of dismiss that rumor that his visa was restricted.
I was shocked too.
I was there. I was thinking
and somebody already took my Tabata, so I will not say it, but so because my Tabata is for the president to be in America and say, I'm home. Come on now. Home? You are the president of our country and you are in Queens or somewhere there and you say, I'm home, this is my home. And the justification is because you are a citizen of the world. To me, that's the biggest. And this president who
you president like bro, but you citizen of France and the USA, he's world citizen.
The president who I've never seen him hold his own child. For all the time I've known him, I've never. I did not say he didn't do it, but I've not seen him with any of his children, let alone a pet. Now, president is in the street playing with dogs. And this guy thinks he have to disprove everything people say about him.
Yeah,
this is
narcissism.
This is complete tabata.
Classic narcissism.
Again, you see. I think this is a problem we're having now. There is a viewpoint that the president now we're hearing that the president don't have to respond to everything And the president has not responded to everything.
Let me go to.
When the president don't respond, then the same people cry. All the president should respond to everything. Look.
No, nobody says that.
No, man, but that was
Nobody says that.
Yeah. The president should not respond to everything. When he doesn't respond to everything, then there's another criticism. So they make it have it. Anyway, you do it, it's still negative for the opposition.
Let the president respond to the.
He doesn't respond.
Why the healthcare is failing. But let me read some Tabata here. Maybe Deco say my Tabata of the remarks he just made about Miami statement. That's it's Tabata. Precious Johnson. My Tabata is listening to him talk about carbon emission and how Liberia is working to reduce it by 54%. How he knows about carbon emission? Choppy, if you want to respond, you will get tired. So just let me read my Tabata.
But we'll talk about carbon emission. Yeah, I don't think anybody said it here.
Yeah, he said he heard the president talk about carbon emission.
Oh, okay. Nah.
Is the president?
You're discussing that issue, man.
My Tabata is a guy telling my brother that he will vote for Weah in the CDC just for him to be able to graduate from the UL on free tuition basis. To him, that's Tabata. We got more Tabata here that I'm trying to find. And if you see any Tabata, just come on, Sam Waller, we need Tabata. Not you responding to.
Sam Waller tired now. Oh, here.
He said the Tabata is the opposition continue to naively put themselves in the position of being one UP or upped by the administration. The latest example is the opposition screaming at the top of their lungs that there is no rice in the country. I suspect there will be a press conference soon that tons of bags of rice as the backdrop. Come on, man. I mean, is this picture the opposition create this and we'll play that scene? Or did the opposition actually create that there's no rice? To me, that's another Tabata. Well, thank you so much for the time here. At this time, we're going to go around the room for your closing comment, or for 1.5 minutes each. What will it take for Weah to win? What will it take for Weah to lose? And let me start with the sedition. Choppy.
Oh, man. Well, I think the opposition has, like everybody has said, has failed to articulate a better view of an alternative view why the Liberians should support them to win elections in the country. And what I see has happened is they have presented all the same old failed political ideas of the past, which is just bringing, the same folks who were in government and could not do most of the things they're talking about now, the same folks jumping around and saying they can provide better leadership for the country. And they have led to their own split. Fundamental to the opposition is their failure to respect the democratic norms. And I think that has hurt them so bad that you cannot go together as a group and respect the norms of democracy, of choosing who can represent your interests. I contrast that with the CDC in 2011 going to a convention, George, we are losing to Winston Tubman, and we still maintain our party and run for elections. So the opposition cannot provide an alternative. We are going to defeat them at the ballot box very strongly. I suspect if they don't mind, there might be a first round victory for George Weah and the CDC.
Thank you. Carl?
Weah did not go in the primary against Winston Tubman and lose, and we all know that. CDC is not a Zoe Bush where we get friends and family members. That's it.
It was a democratic process. We did not see on the other side.
That's not true. That's not true. And there's people watching that know better. So I beg you, respect the people's intelligence. But to get back to what Dennis wants us to do, what I believe needs to happen, I think I've stated this already, but I will repeat it because it's important, for Liberians to be able to carry the type of candidate that's going to lift them into modernity and provide them with the opportunity to manifest their destiny, exercise their full potential, raise their human capital. They themselves, the citizens ourselves, we need to expect more. You know, we're not going to, there's no benevolent narcissist that's going to come and solve all the problems. We have to demand it, we have to set expectations, and we have to hold politicians, elected officials, those in power accountable. And until that happens, nobody's going to defeat Weah. Nobody's, and even if they do, nothing is going to be approved for the Liberian people. We have to raise our standards.
Yeah, thank you. Let me read a few tabatas here. They are coming in. Ayume Cassell, my tabata is we know we're in a mess with a joke of a preso. Flomo Livingstone, my tabata is president said there is development, but we can't see it. Vivian Powerhouse, my tabata is all the functional illiterates wearing coat suit and African dress code with scobies. Says Pro, my tabata is Joseph Boakai claiming to have a farm when he got none. Or Mosiama Yama, my tabata is the president needs to understand we do not vote him to be a mystical president. Labra already has many entertainers. He needs to address serious national issues rather than always on merrymaking. Keep your tabata coming here. This one from Anna Otimu. President's wife playing Candy Crush, minister wearing papa, president packing his, oh God. I thought of something the president Parker is.
That's a real
yeah. All right. So let me go to Comrade Sharif for his closing comment.
Why are you picking on me right now?
Comrade Sharif,
all right. So okay. So I mean, this is a serious time. 2023 is a serious time, and you know we don't have a serious president. But the Liberian people, someone has, people have always reminded me that the government is a reflection of the people. Professor Dunn said the people get the government they deserve, and someone reminded me 2 weeks ago that the government is a reflection of the people. He said, think about it, Muhammad. A lot of these people were born either during the Civil War or right after the Civil War. So, and that is profound. You have a president who's unserious, who doesn't take his job seriously. And yet, he commands a lot of support. And I think that nothing right now has shown me that this opposition, this fractured opposition, this opposition of individuals who are in it for themselves. So let's just say, one of the opposition leaders win the election. So what? What are they going to do differently? That's what I'm interested in. What are they going to do differently? They're not going to do anything different. Okay. They're just in it again for employment. They're going to employ their own people. It's going to be the same old. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in a real revolutionary change, a radical change of direction, some ideology, people who have a sense of purpose. I don't see that right now in this opposition. So until then, I think that George Weah is on course, to win the election.
Thank you. Ever say my tabata is FOL slowly becoming anti-Weah platform. Masa, what's your closer comment?
Well, like I stated earlier, I think Weah remains a formidable candidate because he has a lot more in his favor than not. He's an incumbent. He has the resources. He seems to be connecting with ordinary Liberians. Yeah. He's doing some projects. They may seem insignificant to some people, but to the people who are being impacted by those projects, it seems to be a lot. And we are in no position psychologically, and we have no right to disprove or to interpret how they feel, because they are the ones who are in the community. If they say Weah brings a bag of rice with his picture on it, that's the best food they have eaten their entire life, who are we to disprove that? the point I'm trying to make is that the opposition needs to be more organized. It needs to be more vigilant. It needs to have specific strategic messages to counter the CDC, what the CDC is doing on the ground. They also need to be out there more visible in the communities and doing things. And they need to be less fickle in terms of wanting to be angry with everybody who has, an opposing view, no matter how, as said, no matter how moderate. It's just too much time they're taking up. It's just too much energy they're expending for nothing. They need to also come together, because I do not think that any single person by themselves will be able to unseat George Weah. I do not see it at all in 100 years. So the opposition need to come together. They need to iron on their differences. I think it's only 1 year, maybe 11 months into the elections. They have a lot of work to do. But for now, as it is, I think, we are stands a pretty good chance of being reelected if things do not change. That's how I see it, though.
Thank you. So Anna now has a change of mind. There's a cleaner Tabata. My other Tabata is Mr. Choppy Charlie's blatant disregard for the Liberian people and their issues by defending Weah and his antics. Mr. Salif, you got the last word. And before you come in, we want to remind our viewers that this weekend we're going to have some debates, and please tune in. Friday, tomorrow, we have the literary hour. This Saturday, though, we are not having the Liberian History channel. We're going to be doing the Liberian History channel next Saturday. We try to alternate now because we are counting on your support. The research is too much. So we're giving you at least 1 week to be able to review the materials. We're going to be dealing with Daniel B. Warner. What do you know about Daniel B. Warner? I went to Monrovia College. The only thing I know about Daniel B. Warner is when you are getting to MC, there is a school there called Daniel B. Warner Elementary School. That is all that I know. So if you are like me, please tune in next Saturday for the Liberian History channel. Right here on Focus on Liberia, by far the only platform that can do this since 1847.
Blood you.
Mr. Salute,
Dennis, one time I was on a flight, I think it was from Cairo. I was going to Monrovia, and there was a Sierra Leonean lady who was also traveling back home from London or something, and she was struggling with my accent. Where are you? You from this place? You from that place? And I told her, no, I'm from Liberia. She said, oh my God, Liberia is always lucky with bad luck. There was Ebola time. So she was saying, and Sierra Leone hadn't been that hit yet. Liberia, it was really when Ebola was strong in Liberia. And she said, Liberia is always lucky with bad luck. So, that reminds me all the time. There's something in that statement, may not be totally true, but the political feud right now in Liberia in the presidential elections, it's not exciting. I mean, we have to just face it. It's not exciting. There are a lot of Liberian groups have failed Liberia, have failed Liberians, and as a result, we have what we have because it's one of those our dialogues, right? I mean, you may say President Weah's administration, this term hasn't done X, Y, Z. They could have been doing this, doing that. They're not doing. The country maybe in a bad shape economically. Maybe focusing on infrastructure and some projects here and there. Like any government, any president would do something. No one is saying President Weah hasn't done anything at all. Any president, any government that has mandate of the people will do something during their tenure. So President Weah has done some things. But if the opposition, coming back to this, what would it take or what would they not take? The opposition is really not exciting. They're not coming together. They don't have what it takes, and they're not paying attention. I don't see, at least, because we're not there. I'm not talking to them, but I don't see it, at least. So that's something of concern. Then what's the alternative vision What is it that what kind of hope are they inspiring for the Liberian people? What is there to be excited about the opposition side, whether it's Mr. Barker, whether it's Mr. Cummings, or anyone else there, Mr. Gonglo? What is it that there's that alternative to Weah? We are, on the other hand, the Liberian people be so despondent. There are a lot of people who are complaining about hardship, the shape of the country, the image of the country, and all these problems that we've talked about tonight. So we're really in a bind here. I don't know how we get out of that, but I think that like Mohammed was talking about, that radical, not violent revolution, but some kind of shock therapy of some sort that really should work in the country, should work in Liberians, that this country is in trouble. This country needs to get moving, because it's not even moving the way other countries are in this 21st century. So it's a difficult question. I just wanted to raise that lucky kind of.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you for your time tonight. We always appreciate your time, taking time off your busy schedule to be here and do what we all love doing as a contribution to our country. We want to also thank our viewers, those watching now and those who will watch later. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook, Instagram, and all the social media platforms, because Focus on Liberia strive to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we say good night. Whether you think President Weah is going to win or lose, you think that he's doing well, or he has never, he's going to win it, whatever your side, we are all Liberians, and let us do our utmost best to make our country the sweet land of liberty. Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our